Hello, my name is Bosko Popovic. I'm an energy healing coach and a teacher. And in this video, I'm going to continue to talk about the negative emotions because they're a very important part of our overall psychophysical makeup. And I will also add, in addition to what I've said in my previous videos in terms of how to effectively prevent the creation of negative emotions, and then what you can do once you have actually allowed the negative emotions to become a dominant factor in your cognitive dwelling or perception of the world. Another very powerful way to prevent and basically over a period of time control and then allow to dwindle away from both your physical and your mental, psychological, emotional, and spiritual energetic levels is the consistent and methodical approach in constantly rising or upgrading or enhancing the levels of the energy flow in your bioenergy field. This is extremely important because, as I've mentioned and talked about extensively in all my videos before, this one here, the sort of consistent and unrestricted flow of energy in your bioenergy field, both outside and inside. Outside means out of your body, and inside from within your own physical body, allows a complete self-regulation at every level, and that equates to good health, overall good health, which comprises physical and mental health. So how can actually the regular energy work can help you to sort of achieve this balance, or in medical terms or medical vocabulary, achieving the homeostasis, which actually means a not perfect but almost perfect state in where everything runs just exactly how it is meant to run. Behind the curtains, if we, let's say, that's basically the case, that the actual physical reality that we see and that we perceive with all our senses, in the real context of the reality as it is, represents numerically or mathematically 0. I don't know, 0.000, I don't even know how many zeros going back, and let's say 5% of the overall reality that there is. So that means that what we are perceiving as a physical world is literally, if we look at the model of this physical reality, that is a grain of sand in an endless desert. If you assume the whole physical reality, not what we're seeing here with our own eyes, but the whole reality that actually involves the universe that we know. So it means that's just literally a tiny part of the huge makeup that we call the reality. So what is actually the reality that we cannot see? That is, in a simple terms, energy. That's all it is. So, energy as such actually comprises many, many, almost infinite things that we can maybe perceive, maybe not. Maybe it can be in some ways achieved through some visualizations or some outside abilities of the physical realm that we're in, if we, through the extensive understanding of meditatory techniques, temporarily have an access to the higher realms in where we can actually perceive things and see things that are impossible to see in this reality. Even that is literally nothing. So, energy is so vast that it's beyond, there's no words that I can use to explain basically what it is, because it is just, it is something that cannot be explained. Anyway, so that's something that cannot be explained is the ultimate friend that we have. If we know how to actually work together intelligently with that friend in order to allow that friend to do what it normally does without any obstructions that are coming through our negative emotions that are end product of negative thoughts, and before that stressful situations, and then creation of mental belief that we are unable to deal with a certain situations. Hence, we deem ourselves as being powerless. And that, of course, creates a blockchain of various negativities that are expressed in thoughts and the emotions, which, of course, then inadvertently then impacts your endocrine system, your central nervous system, your inner organs, and your entire physicality. And the byproduct of that is, again, we're going back to the negative thinking, whatever you, it's got a loop that goes all the way around and into infinity by repeating itself in a one large circle, which represents the cycles of behavior. And every new cycle recreates an even harder physical and mental hardship. So, how can we actually prevent all that? Is through the actual application of the what I call, in my basic sort of levels of the program that I've created, and this is something called, I call it 4 pillars, and they are basically, the first thing is to learn the physicality of the correct stance or the actual routing, very similar to what the Chinese do with Tai Chi, Qigong. Then after that, you're doing the so-called breathing, in which way you are actually then, when you are connected through the actual physicality of the body in the proper way, through the proper geometry of the body, you now, through the correct breathing technique, you're now sort of, through your rooting with the earth, you're now sort of releasing negative energy into the ground or into the earth, allowing that to be recycled by the earth itself in order to clean and reprocess that energy back to its native levels that you require, because bear in mind, earth is fully conscious being, and in fact it knows your native resonance. It knows. Whether you believe it or not, that is totally academic. In fact, it's not even part of any questions or any sort of debate. That is the fact. Through that cleansed energy comes back into your system, and through this particular process of doing things, you're starting the process of what I called cleaning or energetic rebumping or energetic recharging through the process of releasing the negative energy and then recharging back the same negative energy back into your bioenergy field, this time your proper native energy. And what we call negative energy is distorted energy that is not your native energy, and as such it actually causes confusion at your subcellular level by feeding incorrect information to your cells in the ways that they need to reproduce. And that creates, over a period of time, a different coding at a subcellular level, which leads to formation of different things which are not native, and it's something that we call various names or medical names. I don't know, from let's say the cancers through the various deformations of the body, coagulations, the cloggings, you name it. There's so many of them. I'm not going to be now naming because wasting my time. So all these deformations on the physical level are coming through the constant dwelling in negative emotion that is distorting the particular energy in your bioenergy field, and with that they are actually revamping and rewriting a new energetic structure which is incorrect and against your native energetic structure. So for that reason, you need to learn the proper basics, which is the correct stance, breathing in a stance. The third position is, again, it's like a Tai Chi or Qigong, is the actual movement, which the Chinese call the moving meditation. So why is that important? Meditation meaning you are mentally focused, you are grounded. Through moving means you are now physically, through the actual mental focus, grounding. With the movement, you are now shifting and literally distorting the preordained flow of energy, which might have been contaminated previously by your negative thoughts and the emotions. How are you doing that? Because by recharging your native energy through the sort of cleansing the how can I say the non-native or the polluted energy through your negative thoughts and emotions via the earth. Most of the energy now comes out and is being projected out of your hands. Through the movement in the particular stance where you actually created this particular flow, of this cleansed flow, now with this particular beamers, which are your hands, you are now effectively disrupting the flow of the so-called wrong energy or the non-native energy through the movement of your hands. This is the third position. And the most important one, in order to truly now finalize and create like kind of a dome, invisible dome around this particular process, which will shield you from excessive influence of other people that are probably could be working with you, or you could be surrounded by somebody else, or you're probably dwelling in some highly polluted dwellings or rooms or whatever that might be, where the people with a lot of negativity are coming in and out or spending time, and with that they are actually radiating a particular energy, and that energy might be then now being released and coming back to you. In this way, you're creating a kind of like a protection dome, so you can actually start to basically better and more and create this process but to be more effective and efficient. This what creates that is your focus on the present moment. And why is that important? Because that gives you this position of neutrality. Every time you're mentally neutral, you're balanced, you come into the position they call zero. You're neither up, you're neither down, which means you're neither excited positively or you're not being mentally challenged in a negative way. And there is no difference between mental and positive so-called how can I say, the excitement against being mentally in some way challenged. There's no difference. They're both the same because you're not within this sphere or the position where you are in full control, and that is neutrality. Every time you go up and you go down, you're actually extending and you're actually pushing it beyond to what you really where you should be. And as you're doing so, you're actually creating a misbalance. The point of everything in the universe is perfect balance. Once you start going out of balanced state, the point is balance. It has to go back to balance itself. So how is it going to balance itself? Not by going back to zero, because it's impossible. You won't be balanced. You have to go all the way down on the other side, like a yo-yo, and then go up and down until it finally balances itself to that 0 point. But if you work on yourself through these 4 particular concepts, or I don't know, the pillars, as I call it, of life, of controlled life, I apologize, not life, biological life, but a controlled, mental controlled life, you are now in charge. And the whole thing is, that's why you have mental faculties, is for you to be in charge, so you can, through the process of analytical separation of things, understand what is right for you at any moment in time, and then make the decision and then consciously control that, which is based upon your analytical understanding of things that you have digested through any means of your mental abilities, whatever mental abilities you're using to make whatever judgment or decision that will lead to action. But the true point of empowerment comes from the position 0, or when you are focused in the moment, because then you can see things clearly. Any overexcitement in a so-called positive way, when you're extremely happy and what have you, you're going out of balance. As I said earlier, in order to balance yourself, you need to go back into the other side, and then you're yo-yoing up and down until at some point you, if you ever go back to being neutral or to the position 0. And if you're not in control, you are always jumping from one side to another side, And basically you're yo-yoing between positive and negative, but hardly ever do you get yourself into the position of neutrality. And that is the key position from which you can observe anything in life with a degree of control. And unless you have a control, you cannot make right cognitive decisions to get you to where you want to go, provided you know your final destination. So, the constant work using these 4 pillars of good mental life control will actually help you over time, depending on how out of balance you are, to start to create that mental balance that we all seek and that will eventually lead us to the position that we all aim to achieve, and that is to be in control and be neutral, so that we can properly evaluate any life situation as it is and not being victim of our emotional states dictated by our previous understanding of ourselves and what we are capable to do or not. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that you are fully aware that you can do anything you want, provided you have the right information to start with that will enable you to make a right decision at any moment in time, provided you know where you want to go and provided you know how you are going to get there. Because you know a lot of things cannot happen overnight. It takes time to achieve things. But if you are mentally stable, you are neutral, you're recharging yourself at all times, you're maintaining this position of mental stability by being in the present moment, you have a good chance to effectively neutralize any forms of negative thinking, any forms of negative emotions, or anything that will hamper your self-belief and your self-perception of what you're capable to do at any moment in time. That's very, very important. Once you start doing that, it will, and the more you do it, it's a basic law of physics. The more mass, the more energy you amass, the more energy you create behind it. So the whole process will be extremely difficult when you actually start this process from anew, or when you're totally new to this particular practice, you've never done it before. Let's assume you are heavily invested and heavily into whatever it is that you've been doing, have a low self-esteem, blah, 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 so on and so forth. You have to assume that this process is going to be very hard, and you will see no results for quite some time. But if you believe and trust what I'm telling you, and you persevere in doing these 4 pillars on a regular basis, you are guaranteed results coming when you start properly cleaning your bioenergy field, both from outside and from inside. And that in time will then express itself in a much better physical health, which will then relate to a much better mental, cognitive, and emotional and spiritual connections and energetic outputs that you're actually mastering at any moment in time. And you will feel it. You will know it, because this will be a very obvious change of state. Very obvious, not only change mental, but the physical state as well. Your physical abilities are going to change, are going to amplify massively. And that is something that you cannot just overcome overnight, because that is the process. You did not go down in one day. It took you a very, very long time of self-neglect to get you where you are now, feeling disempowered and whatever you might not feel right about yourself at this moment. It took you a very long time to do that. At the same time, you have to expect that you have to walk all the way back and literally walk everything back in order to relearn everything that you have missed and then deal with it correctly and eliminate it from your energetic field. And in that way, you are going to be fully in control of everything that is happening to you. Absolutely everything. So this is one of the most powerful ways in which you can actually not only neutralize negative emotions, but more effectively your negative thoughts, and even dealing with the negative effects on your overall cognitive structure through an ability to deal with the stress or challenging situations in your life. This is a very powerful tool that you can use in your toolbox to really start the process of change. And in my next videos I'm going to put in the future, I'll talk about different techniques, but this is a foundation. Without this, it's very difficult to make any meaningful changes. I can tell that because I know I've been there, I've done it for over 25 years. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I helped myself in a resurface and come back from real hell in my life some 20 years ago. And I've all done it by using these techniques. And I know exactly how powerful they are. As always, if you have any questions or anything that I missed or anything that I didn't explain properly, please put it down in your comments, or you can write to me on my direct email, which is info@energy-savvy.com. And if you want to know more about what I do, please visit my website on www.energy-savvy.com. And as always, I will see you in one of my next videos. Until then, goodbye.